You know that feeling of anxiety? It can be so overwhelming, especially when we're facing something unknown. But what if one of the most powerful tools to manage it was something you're literally doing right now, without even thinking about it? Let's take a closer look at the science behind our own breath.
All right, first up, let's talk about a really fascinating study from Magnon and colleagues that came out in 2021. They basically wanted to know if one single short breathing session could make a real noticeable difference right here and now.
And this was their central question. I mean, not weeks of practice, not some lifelong commitment, but just 5 minutes. Can something that simple actually move the needle? Let's find out.
To measure this, they looked at something called vagal tone. Now, the easiest way to think about this is that it's your body's built-in braking system for stress. It's what allows your rest and digest system to step on the brakes and slow down that fight or flight response. So the higher your vagal tone, the quicker and easier you can shift into a calm state.
The technique they used was incredibly simple. A 4-second inhale and then a longer 6-second exhale. And that's it. Participants just did this for 5 minutes. Now, the key here, the secret sauce, is that longer exhale. It directly stimulates the main nerve of that braking system we just talked about.
So what happened? Well, first let's talk about how people actually felt. Both the younger and the older adults in the study reported a significant drop in their anxiety levels immediately after just that 1 5-minute exercise. So yeah, it didn't just feel kinda good, it measurably lowered their feelings of anxiety. But here's the objective proof, the hard data. This chart shows the increase in vagal tone, that braking system activity. You can see it went up for everyone after breathing, which confirms their bodies were physically shifting into a calmer state. But get this, look at the difference. The really amazing finding here is that the older adults showed a way bigger increase in vagal tone than the younger group did. This was probably the study's biggest surprise. This simple act of slowing down the breath was even more powerful for restoring that calm mode in older adults. It really suggests that this is an incredibly valuable tool for managing stress, especially as we get older.
Let's look at what's happening inside our heads from one moment to the next. A really cool study by Quan Lo and colleagues, coming out in 2025, wanted to answer a very specific question. Can changing our breathing pace, right now, actually alter how our brain responds to one of the biggest drivers of anxiety, which is uncertainty?
To figure this out, they set up a really straightforward experiment. They had one group of people breathe pretty quickly, a 2-second inhale followed by a 2-second exhale. Then they had the other group breathe really slowly, a long 6-second inhale and a 6-second exhale.
Now, to see what was going on under the hood, they used a couple of key tools. First up was an EEG. Think of it like a device that can listen in on the electrical chatter of the brain, measuring just how active it is.
And the second tool was an ECG. This one records the rhythm and the patterns of the heart. It tells us exactly how the body is physically responding, whether it's in a state of stress or a state of relaxation.
The experiment itself was actually pretty clever. First, people spent about 30 seconds doing a paced breathing exercise. Then, right after, they were put into what's called a threat uncertainty task. Basically, they'd see a cue. A circle meant a negative image was definitely coming. But a question mark? That meant the image might be negative. And that's what's designed to create that feeling of anticipatory anxiety, that dread when you don't know what's coming.
So, what did they find? Well, the results were incredibly clear. Taking those slow breaths made a huge difference across 4 key areas. It changed how people felt, what was physically happening inside their brains, and even the rhythm of their hearts.
This chart just says it all, doesn't it? It shows how people rated the images on 2 things, valence, which is basically how negative it felt, and arousal, which is how intense or agitating that feeling was. The blue line is the fast breathing and the orange is the slow breathing. Just look at how that orange line is consistently lower. It means that when people breathed slowly, they felt less negative and less worked up, especially when they had no idea what was coming next.
And this visual shows you what was happening under the hood. These are EEG maps of the brain during the breathing itself. That top row is fast breathing, and the bottom is slow. Now, see all that deep blue? That color means lower electrical power, a calmer brain. I mean, just look at the difference. The slow breathing brain is visibly, literally quieter. It's a picture of a calmer mind. Slow breathing created this calmer, more synchronized state of brainwaves overall. And get this, when things were uncertain, it specifically turned down the volume on beta waves. You can think of beta waves as the brain's red alert signal. the one that goes haywire when you're anxious or laser-focused on a threat.
And it wasn't just in their heads either. Their bodies were physically changing too. The ECG data showed their heart patterns were shifting away from a state of stress and into our body's natural rest and digest mode. Basically, their whole system started to chill out.
Slow breathing doesn't just make you feel better, it fundamentally changes how your brain deals with emotional uncertainty. But that just leads to an even bigger question, right? Is this just a temporary fix, or can this practice actually build a more resilient brain over time?
And that brings us perfectly to a study, this one from Iwabe and colleagues, also published in 2025. They were asking, could just one short session of slow breathing actively beef up the brain's emotional defense system, making it tougher against whatever stress comes next?
They decided to focus on one very specific part of the brain, the left frontal lobe. You can think of this area as your brain's emotional control center. It's the part that helps you manage your feelings and stay cool under pressure.
So using an EEG to measure brain waves, they looked at a signal called relative left frontal activity, or RLFA for short. Just think of this as a direct measurement of how active your emotional control center is. The higher your RLFA, the better your emotional stability. It's kind of like a resilience score for your brain.
And the exercise they used was just so simple, anyone could do it. It was a 5-minute exercise of breathing in for 4 seconds and out for 6 seconds. That's it. That slightly longer exhale is a really well-known trick for kicking the body's calming systems into gear.
Now, the way they set up this experiment was just brilliant. First, they measured everyone's brain activity at baseline. Then the participants did 5 minutes of slow breathing. They measured again. Then they put them under stress by showing them unpleasant images and measured one last time, just to see if those calming effects would actually stick around. And wow, the results were just remarkable. See the purple line on this chart? That's the slow breathing group. As you can see, their anxiety plummets right after the exercise. But here's the amazing part. Look what happens after they see the stressful images. Their anxiety stays way lower than the control group in green. The benefit didn't just disappear, it held on.
So what was going on in the brain to make this happen? This is where it gets so exciting. The data showed that the brain's emotional control center didn't just get a temporary boost. No, it stayed stronger, basically creating a buffer against that incoming stress.
Let's look at the actual brain data. This chart shows the activity in that emotional control center. See the purple line again? It just shoots up after the slow breathing, which means a more regulated brain. And just like their anxiety scores, it stays higher than the control group even after the stress. This wasn't just a feeling, it was a measurable shift in how the brain was operating. Those positive changes in the brain stuck around. The increased resilience didn't just vanish when they were stressed out by those images. This is huge. It means slow breathing doesn't just calm you down in the moment. It actually builds a brain that is measurably more resilient and better equipped to handle stress after you're done breathing. Okay, so a single session works right away. That's fantastic. But can this practice create real, lasting clinical change for people who are actually diagnosed with anxiety disorders? For that, let's look at a 2024 study by Kavitha and her team. And this was a serious, well-designed study. They took 140 patients and randomly split them into 2 groups. One group just got standard care. The other group got standard care plus an 8-week program of slow breathing and relaxation. Then they measured everybody to see what changed. One of the key things they measured was heart rate variability, or HRV. The easiest way to think about HRV is like a report card for your nervous system. Is your body leaning more towards that fight-or-flight stress mode, or is it favoring the rest and digest calm mode? They also looked at something called baroreflex sensitivity, or BRS. All that means is how well your heart and your blood pressure are communicating with each other. The better they're coordinated, the more resilient and healthy your whole cardiovascular system is. And the difference between the 2 groups after 8 weeks, it was night and day. The control group, the ones who didn't do the breathing exercises, saw basically no changes in these deep health markers. But the breathing group, their calm system got stronger, their stress system quieted down, and their heart-blood pressure teamwork got better. The numbers really tell the story here. Look at the balance between the stress and calm systems. It was practically cut in half. Dropping from 1.20 down to 0.64 is a massive shift toward a state of calm. And at the same time, that heart-blood pressure coordination shot up from around 14 to over 18. These aren't just minor adjustments. We're talking about profound, lasting changes to their physiology. So the evidence for both a quick fix and long-term benefits is pretty powerful. But good science is always honest about what it's still figuring out.
We've just seen some incredibly powerful results, both for the brain and the body. But, an essential part of good science is being transparent and admitting what we still don't know.
So across these studies, sometimes the groups were a bit small or specific, like using only healthy university students. A few of the studies didn't have a non-breathing control group to compare against, and of course, it's hard to control for everything in a person's life, like if they also meditate or exercise. So while the effects we've seen are super clear, more research is still needed to confirm these benefits in bigger, more diverse groups over even longer periods of time.
The brainwave study from Lu's team only included female participants. So we need more research to see if these exact effects happen in men, too. And the long-term clinical trial, well, it wasn't double-blinded. I mean, you can't really hide from someone that they're doing breathing exercises, right? So we can't completely rule out a placebo effect.
So what's the big takeaway from all this science?
Number 1, you have a tool that can measurably lower your anxiety in just 5 minutes. Number 2, if you do it consistently, you can create real, deep, lasting change in how your body handles stress. You're literally rebalancing your nervous system from the inside out. And the best part? It's a powerful tool that's completely free and available to you anytime, anywhere.
When you look at all the research, the conclusion is really clear and simple. Slow, intentional breathing is a powerful, science-backed tool for your well-being.